All right, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Survive to Thrive. Super excited to be here with you today. We're going to continue the conversation that we started on Tuesday on pricing. So, start out by writing this down. My job is to make an observation and then make a forecast. So, there is a science and an art to strategic pricing. The science is the observation. Here's what I see. And I want you to pay attention to how many homes are currently on the market. How does that compare to the previous month? How does it compare to 6 months ago? How does it compare to a year ago? I also want you to pay attention to what's the average days on market. And again, I want you to study in your local market. You should spend time in the MLS every day studying this stuff. It's your job as a real estate agent to be the local economist of choice, which is exactly what we're talking about here. And this is the observation. Okay. So I want you to pay attention to average days on the market. I want you to look at how does that compare to a previous month, 6 months ago, and a year ago. We also want you to look at different price ranges. And for example, if the average price point in your market is 300,000, just to pick a number, or let's make it 350,000, just to pick a number, I want you to look at how many homes are currently on the market between 300 and 500,000. And then I want you to look at how many homes are on the market from 500 to 750 and what's 750 plus. You should know what your market considers luxury. So take a look at luxury as a different market, because what you're probably going to find is you're going to see a shift in the luxury market before you do in those average price points. And it's your job to know all of this. Okay. It's part of making an observation that leads to a forecast. We're still in the science part of the conversation. I want you to look at sold price to original list price. Now, it's super important. Really pay attention to what I said there, because it's not sold price to list price. It's sold price to original list price. Pay attention to what that number is. Again, compare it to a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And this is all part of the observation you're looking at. Now, when you're doing a market analysis on a property, you're looking at the comparable sales in order to get an idea of what this property is going to sell for, what market value is based on homes that have sold. You're also going to do a supply and demand analysis in order to see what is supply and demand for homes in this particular price range. For example, and I know this is repetitive, guys, but repetition is the mother of learning. A is your active listings. Let's say you're looking 450 to 500. A is your active listings. B is solds. We're always going back 6 months on the solds, by the way. C is B divided by C, and D is A divided by C. There it is. So that's the formula in order to do supply and demand. Now I'm going to do some actual real numbers for you. Let's say there's 18 active listings between 400 and 500,000. And let's say in the last 6 months, there were 24 that were sold. So we're going to take 24 and we're going to divide it by, that was wrong. C is B divided by 6. We're going to take 24 divided by 6, which is 4. So we have 4 homes selling every 30 days. Now we're going to take A, which is 18, divided by C, which is 4. So we've got about 4.5 months of inventory. Now, here's the most important part of the conversation. There's 18 homes for sale. That's your competition. In order to sell your home, you got to beat the competition. You've got 4 that are selling every 30 days. So in order for you to sell your home, you have to be one of the top 4 properties out of the 18 that are available. Now, how are you going to be one of the top 4 properties? Top 25% in condition. So now when I look at those 18 homes, I want to look at those 18 homes that are between 400 and 450,000 within about a 2 to 3 mile radius of my subject property. Why 2 to 3 miles? Because that's how buyers look most of the time. Think school zones, for example. So buyers are looking within a certain school zone because they want their children to go to that school. And there's price range that we're looking at is 400 to 450 because the market analysis we did gave us a market value of 460, 465, 470. So we want to know if this is the pond we're going to go fishing in, how many fish are there? How many buyers are out there? How many buyers are out there every 30 days? So in this particular market, there's 4. Now we want to be one of the 4. Top 25% in presentation, updates, amenities. So when you look at those 18 homes, are you one of the top 4 when it comes to those things? If you are, great. There's a second part of this conversation, though. It's bottom 25% in price. So it's a beauty pageant and it's a price war, and you got to win them both. Top 25% in presentation, bottom 25% in price. Now, if you have a property that's a fixer-upper and it's not going to be top 25% in presentation, the only way that you're going to sell that home is at a discount. Now, bottom 25% in price isn't good enough. You need to lower the price even less. And what I would do in that situation is I would look at, if I'm the buyer and I'm buying this home, remember I have 18 homes I can choose from, and I'm choosing to buy a home that is a fixer-upper. Well, how much money is it going to cost me to get that home to mint condition, move-in ready? Whatever that amount of money is, let's say it's $40,000, the buyer's going to have to spend $40,000 to bring that property up to move in, mint condition. What is that home worth? Once the $40,000 in updates have been made, subtract that amount from that number, and you've got the price that that property is probably going to sell for. So if that home is worth 470, mint condition, move in ready, you're probably looking at a sale price of 430 or somewhere in that ballpark. Sellers aren't going to like that, but it's reality. And we're here to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Now, the other thing, let's go back to the observation conversation. When you're sitting at that listing table, you're letting them know currently there's 700 homes on the market. Here's why that's important. 6 months ago, there were 400 homes. A year ago, there were only 300 homes. So what we're seeing more inventory. The average days on market today is 92 days. A year ago, it was 30 days. The average list price to sell price ratio today is 94%. A year ago, it was 99%. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what it's telling me. This is the forecast part. This is the art. Okay, so the science is the numbers and the data. The art is your interpretation of what all this means. And what this means is we are moving from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And I'm going to pull out my legal pad right there at the kitchen table, and I'm going to start drawing pictures just like I do with you guys on the whiteboard. And I'm going to say, okay, so what this data is telling us, I don't like that drawing. What this data is telling us is from 2018 until 2024, this is what the markets look like. Prices have been going up because we've been looking at inventory between 0 and 60 days. Now we're seeing more inventory. There's more homes for sale, which means there's more competition. Remember, when you're selling your home, it's going to be harder to sell your home when there's more competition than when there's less competition. So there's more competition. Homes are sitting on the market longer. We're no longer 0 to 60 days. We're now between 90 and 120 days. Now, as that changes, we go from a market where buyers are competing for listings, where there's 3 buyers for every 1 home that's being sold, to a market where sellers are competing for buyers, where there's 3 sellers for every 1 buyer. Now, as that happens, just like prices are being driven up over here because buyers are bidding against one another in order to get the property, prices are going to start stabilizing over here. And what's going to happen next is you're going to see prices dropping. Because now you have sellers competing for buyers. And when a home sells, it creates a new ceiling, which means the next home is going to sell for less money. Over here, the last home that sold creates a new floor, which means the next one's going to sell for more money. And I've told you guys this before, sellers get this side of the conversation over here. They're super smart. It's when you get over here that they don't necessarily understand as well. So it's observation. Here's what I see. That's the science. It's forecast. Here's where we're heading. And it's also the art of persuasion. It's being able to have conversations with your clients such that they understand we're not in the same market we were in 6 months ago or a year ago. This is a different market. And the conversation is not what is my home worth or how much money do I want? How much money do I need? The conversation is where do I need to be in order to get my home sold? And when we're here, this price isn't going to work. Neither is that price. Because as the market starts to drop, we want to price the property where the market's going, not where it's at. If the market says, in order to be one of the 4 that sell in the next 30 days, we need to be at 460. 460 is not the right price. The question is, where's the home going to be 30 days from now? Where's it going to be 60 days from now? We get over 120 days on the market, then being in front of the market becomes even more important. I don't know how many of you were selling real estate back in 2008, 9, 10, but we saw inventory in the part of Florida where I was selling real estate. We saw inventory go as high as 3 years of inventory. You got 36 properties for sale. 1 is selling every month. When you're in a market like that, you got to get way in front of the market. So let me back up for a moment and let's just say that's not going to happen this time. Okay. But I do think this is, again, my observation and my forecast. I do think that we are looking at a market where for the next 2 years, let's just say 2027, we're going to be looking at prices leveling off and then coming back slowly. What typically happens there is a lot of economists will say, well, it's a V market. A V market simply means prices are going to fall at a certain rate. They're going to go back at the same rate. We've never seen a V market, not in the last 50 years of real estate. What typically happens is it levels off and then it starts to come back slowly. It's more of a U market. And more than likely, that's what we're going to see as well. Now, if I'm right, what that means is if this is the right price today, this is 2025. The bottom's 2027. We're probably looking at 2028 before your home is worth what it is today. Now, if I'm right, would you rather sell your home for 440 or 430 in the next 60 days? Or would you rather sell it for 450 3 years from now? Remind me why you're selling your home. Go back to the listing presentation, which we practiced yesterday. Lonnie, in order for me to know if I can meet your goals and exceed your expectations, I need to ask you a few questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, what needs to happen for this experience to be a 10? And Lonnie says, I need to sell it quickly. Why is that important to you? What does that do for you? Well, I'm moving to Savannah and I'm starting a new job in Savannah and I've got to be there in 3 months. Or I'm moving to Savannah to be closer to family and I want to get there before the holiday. So I really like to have this home sold and closed by November at the latest. Cool. Got it. Now, what else needs to happen? I want to get my price. Okay, understood. What does that look like? 460. Why is that important to you? What does that do for you? And the next step, after I'm giving you the very short version here, guys, because of time. So don't think this is the 14-point listing presentation because it's not. It's the short version. The next step is prioritizing those needs. So if we can accomplish one of these goals and miss the other goal, what's the most important goal? Now, what do you think you're typically going to hear? Price. They're always going to say, well, prices. I need, pay attention to that word. It's super important. I need $460,000. I understand. So here's what I'm hearing. Pay attention. What I'm hearing, Angie, is if we get 460 or as close to 460 as possible, and it takes 5-6 months to get your home sold, and you're not in Savannah in time for the holidays, or you're not in Savannah in time to start that new job, that's okay. That's a win. That's success. Now, what do you think you're typically going to hear? No, no, no. I need to be in Savannah. So, Anyema, what that typically means, and this is exactly how I'm going to have the conversation, this is the art of persuasion, is okay, so what I'm hearing, Anyema, is time is actually more important than money. Having your property under contract and closed in 90 days is actually more important than 460. And they're going to say, yes, you're right. Now, you've had that conversation. So when you get into a strategic pricing conversation and you're talking about what we need to do in order to beat the competition, we're going to remind them that getting the property sold and closed in the next 90 days is more important than getting their price. We're going to help them make a new decision based on beating the competition so we can get this home sold in the next 90 days versus hanging out for a higher price. And then when you get that offer, and again, the seller's going to again say, well, the offer's too low. I need the money. I'm not going to accept this offer. Well, Bob, does this offer get you to Savannah in 90 days? Yes. Does it get you close to your family? Yes. So it's accomplishing the most important goal, correct? Yes. Now, if you say no, and it's the only offer you get in the next 6 months, and you find out 2-3 months from now that this was a pretty good offer, and you didn't take it, and you're still in your home 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, because you can no longer afford to sell your home, are you okay with that? No, I'm not. Then what should we do? Accept the offer. I agree. Let's go. All right, guys, talk to me.
Yeah, I just put the question in the chat. Where can I watch this recording? YouTube? Okay.
Have you subscribed to my YouTube channel, Lonnie?
I think so, but you have many YouTube channels.
No, just the one.
So.
Just
okay.
the one. Can somebody put the link for my YouTube channel in the chat? There's a lot of John Deese's out there, so that kind of scares me when I hear
I know
a lot of YouTube channels.
One received
like,
$600 from me. So
I'm like, what the heck? That was not.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
No, I'm horrible with passwords and finding links. So I admit
All
But
right.
this is amazing. I haven't have heard this several times, but I think today it really clicked. And I have a situation where I need exactly this.
There you go. That's why
Thank you.
we do it over and over again.
Thank you.
Michael Chilango, talk to us, buddy.
Yeah, so probably the all of it is amazing. The one thing that I think just just really galvanizes this when you're talking to a seller was more competition means homes will sit longer. And the longer they sit, the more price pressure they will feel. What happens next is prices will drop because sellers are competing for buyers.
There it is, right there.
So, right, Mr. Seller, we get to write our story right now rather than letting the sellers or the market write it for us.
That's right. That's right.
Which does that make sense? And are you ready to get started?
That's right.
Yeah.
Good
That
stuff.
was a bar. That was a bar, John.
Wasn't it, Onyema?
Yes, that was good food for sure.
100% agree, and we're blessed to have Michael in this group. He's bringing a lot of extra value to us. So thank you, Michael. You can chase the market or you can create the market. Now, remember, sellers go to script school. So here's a new script that I haven't taught you before that sellers are going to give you. My neighbors are going to be mad at me if I sell the property for that amount. I love this one. So my response to that one is, if your neighbor tells you that you are asking less for your home than you should, if they're saying things like you're giving your home away, you're hurting the value of everybody, you're priced it too low, here's your response. If my home is such a good deal, why don't you buy it? That'll shut the neighbors up.
Yeah. One other scenario, John, that I guess is probably really important for this conversation is the weak hands scenario. So you have this was a real thing that happened in a community where all of the listings were at $1 million. And you had 8 to 12 listings at any point. They're all at $1 million. Everybody's not dropping, but none of the homes are selling. And at some point, somebody's motivation met the market,
right?
And they got weak hands. They wouldn't hold that $1 million value anymore. And so whatever they sold for became the new ceiling. And so if they decided to sell for 850, everybody was holding out for $1 million. Well, now you're at 850.
Right.
And it wasn't your choice. And that's what I meant by write your story.
That's correct. Good stuff. All right. I don't see any other hands up. And I did promise that I had something I want to share with you at the end. And I think that's probably why you guys are not raising your hands. So let me just hit stop record. For everybody watching this on video, thank you for joining us. We meet daily at 9 a.m. You're welcome to join our group. Send me a message and I'll send you the link.